Good evening and welcome everybody. My name is Brendan Gould from the Master Plumbers and I'll be your host tonight for this evening's webinar. Before we get into the webinar tonight, I'd like to welcome Caelan Brown. Caelan is a plumber and Director of Pathway Plumbing and he will offer a welcome to country. Thank you, Caelan.
Hello everyone and thanks for coming and joining into the webinar. My name is Caelan Brown, Gundjamara, Yorta Yorta, Wiradjuri and Wurundjeri man. Firstly, I'd like to take this time to pay my respects to my elders who are both here, but also the ones that have passed through onto the Dreamtime. Woman welcome. On behalf of the Wurundjeri people, I'd like to welcome everyone here today who's meeting around the state, and particularly in Melbourne, for the people who reside in Melbourne and work. Welcome to the lands of Wurundjeri. Woman thank you.
Thank you, Caelan. I would like to start by thanking ESV and the VBA for their support for these webinars. These are important sessions. And if you have been involved in one of these sessions before, welcome back. If it is your first time, thank you for spending some time with us this evening. The Master Plumbers have partnered with both ESV and the VBA for a bit over 10 years to bring these webinars to people that are working in the gas and gas servicing industry to update people in relation to changes of regulations, changes in practices, and hoping to help people understand what their obligations are as they safely service gas appliances for the community. With the changes to the Gas Safety Installation Regulations 2018 being mandated on the 1st of June 2022, the VBA has received significant feedback and they are exploring further opportunities to streamline the online reporting system and reduce the duplication of records between the residential tenancies gas safety check and gas servicing requirements to reduce the burden on gas fitters as much as possible. These changes will take time to implement and the VBA does recognise that the gas servicing record does take significant time to complete. In the interim, the focus of the VBA is not to punish non-compliance, but to assist gas fitters to meet their new obligations. This year's sessions are a little bit different from the sessions that we have done in the past, and they will focus on some recent industry changes. There will be ESV's Be Sure campaign of 2022, which is a consumer-facing campaign around gas appliance servicing. The proposed regulatory action on unsafe open fluid gas space heaters, an update on hydrogen, amendments to the gas fitting standards AS/NZ/S 5601, lodging a record of servicing work with the VBA through the gas servicing record portal, complying with the requirements of the AS 4575 in carrying out servicing work on Type A appliances, and updates to the residential tenancies regulations. With an introduction from the Commission Chairperson at Energy Safe Victoria, Marnie Williams, the Gas Safety webinar homepage has links to ESV's website where you will find ESV's Gas Fitter Toolkit page, that is ESV's technical information sheets and the information on servicing requirements, as well as negative pressure testing and carbon monoxide spillage testing. With a newly developed page with information on the residential tenancies regulations, there are also some frequently asked and answered questions. We do have a panel of representatives from both VBA and ESV with us tonight, so you will have the opportunity to ask some questions. To do this, click on the Q&A icon on the taskbar on the bottom of your screen. We will answer as many questions as we possibly can throughout the webinar session tonight, but with a tad over 250 people on the webinar, we may not get to all of those questions. If we don't get to your question tonight, what we will do is respond to you directly via email over the coming days. I'd also like to remind everybody that a copy of the recording will be available on the program landing page at the conclusion of the series of the webinars for everyone to view. I would like to now introduce Paul Makarieski, Team Leader Operations from Energy Safe Victoria, with an update from ESV. Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Brendan, and welcome all to the 2022 Gas Safety webinar. Let's get this right. Now, my name is Paul Makarieski. I'm the Team Leader of the Gas Operations team at Energy Safe Victoria. And many of you are aware that ESV has been running the Be Sure campaigns and CO messaging since the sad passing away of the Robinson boys back in 2010. Now, this year, the Be Sure campaign was launched in late April and has had a refresh of the key messages to get the public to ask themselves some questions about their home and gas heater. Now, this year's format will be slightly different from years past due to the amount of change that is currently taking place within the gas industry. New standards, new processes, a changing landscape. Now, we are taking this opportunity to remind you all that your gas analyzers should be calibrated yearly and are to be used in accordance with the manufacturer's instructions, which for some devices include heat limitations. Now, ESV has prepared a suite of guidance material to assist you in carrying out your important role in keeping our community safe. This information can all be located on the ESV website under technical information, which is highlighted on the screen here. And then there are a few different sections you might like to visit, which includes the Type A Appliance Gas Fitter Toolkit and the Residential Tenancy Changes Gas Fitters Toolkit. Now, these toolkits are designed to provide all the relevant technical information you need to perform a successful gas appliance service, and it can also be accessed at any time that is convenient to yourself. Now, when visiting the Gas Fitters Toolkit webpage under the Residential Tenancy Changes, you'll find a frequently asked questions heading, which contains questions ESV and the VBA have received relating to gas safety checklists and gas servicing. This information is constantly revised to incorporate new questions received from industry and can be valuable to you as a servicing gas fitter. In addition to this, many of you may have already availed yourselves of the gas safety checklist document, which is made available to support gas fitters meet the objectives of the residential tenancy regulations. Gas information sheets specifically relating to gas service work have all been included within to make your browsing experience a little bit easier. Now, we are currently in the process of updating the checklist with the view that you will be able to upload the PDF form onto the VBA portal, which will be discussed further on in this webinar. I'd also like to take this opportunity to remind gas fitters that not all of the gas safety checks listed within the checklist are safety critical. Now, whilst it is understood that a non-compliant item is identified as part of the gas safety checks, not all of these items listed are deemed reasons to isolate an appliance or cap the appliance off. Now, there's some growing concerns that industry is starting to isolate gas appliances for minor non-compliances that are not immediately unsafe. An example of this is the disconnection of a gas appliance for not having an isolation valve adjacent to the appliance. Now, clearly this is not a safety critical issue, but rather is considered a non-compliance. So what should you do if you come across a non-compliance that is not safety critical? Well, you're encouraged to report the non-compliance within the safety checklist that is provided to your client. The client can then make an informed decision on whether they would like to have a non-conformance rectified by yourself or another licensed gas fitter. Now, we urge you to consider whether the installation you're inspecting is dangerous. So the logical question to ask one is, what is considered a dangerous gas installation? Well, to assist gas fitters with dealing with dangerous gas installations, ESV have gas information sheet number 27 available on our website. You will find within this information sheet that a dangerous gas installation is considered to be one that presents a threat to life or property, and that is examples of include such things as faulty gas appliances, appliance safety devices tampered with or removed, significant gas escapes, presence of carbon monoxide from a gas appliance, and other similar items. Now, in addition to the Be Sure campaign and Gas Fitter Toolkit, the Victorian Government has supported the recommendation in principle to the phase out of open fluid gas space heaters and committed to consider this phase out through a regulatory impact statement process, which was delivered by the Department of Environment, Land, Water and Planning. The regulatory impact statement on the phase out of open fluid gas space heaters was open for public consultation from the 29th of December 2020 to the 22nd of February 2021. Now, following detailed consideration of all submissions, the preferred option was option 2, which was to phase out open fluid gas space heaters that do not meet the new requirements through a fast-tracked Australian standard that was implemented. Now, on the 19th of May 2021, the Gas Technical Regulators Committee, which is also commonly referred to as the GTRC, published Technical Guidance Bulletin number 18, requiring conformance with the new safety requirements that open fluid gas space heaters must shut down within 15 minutes once they begin to spill combustion products caused by negative pressure conditions by the 1st of January 2022. The standard now requires that if the appliance shuts down, it cannot automatically reset, requiring intervention by a licensed gas fitter with the specialised class of Type A gas appliance servicing to manually reset the appliance in accordance with the manufacturer's instructions after modifying the installation to ensure adequate ventilation to remove the negative pressure. ESV is also considering prohibiting the sale of open fluid gas space heaters that do not meet the new requirements, as the expectation from industry was that old stock would run out in 2021 and not be sold into the winter of 2022. In addition, the Victorian government is considering prohibiting the installation of open flue gas space heaters that do not meet the new requirements as of the 1st of July this year. Now, the GTRC Technical Bulletin imposed additional tests to an open fluid gas space heater when subjected to a sustained negative room pressure condition. The requirements manufacturers are required to meet are contained within the Technical Guidance Bulletin and can be found on the GTRC website. There are also amendments to the standard for decorative effect appliances with the introduction of markings for the appliance and its packaging, making it clear that open fluid Type 2 decorative effect appliances and Type 1 decorative effect appliances require permanent ventilation. Now, in addition to this, recently you may have noticed that ESV have assessed whether to exercise its powers under Section 76 of the Gas Safety Act to prohibit the supply of open fluid gas space heaters which do not comply with the current NZS standard. And under Section 69A of the Act, to declare that open fluid gas space heaters that do not meet the latest safety requirements specified in the standard are no longer accepted for the purpose of supply and sale in Victoria. Now, as a part of this assessment, we have consulted with industry stakeholders on the proposed regulatory action by means of issuing a consultation notice and draft instruments for public review and response. We are in the process of reviewing the responses received and will keep industry posted of any outcomes moving forward as they are finalised. Now, open fluid space heaters that currently do meet the standard can be found on the ESV website under the Safety and Education tab, then Gas Safety at Home, Heating Your Home Safely with Gas, and once you're on that page, the tab that is listed as New Safety Standards for Gas Space Heaters. A list of the open fluid gas space heaters that are currently listed on the ESV website are displayed on this side, but as we just mentioned, can also be found on our website at any time. Well, now we'd like to provide an update on hydrogen gas. Now, bearing in mind we have some significant changes to industry at the moment, so we'll try and keep this as brief as possible. Federal, state and territory governments are committed to net zero carbon emissions by 2050. Hydrogen, as a replacement for natural and LPG gas, is considered part of the solution to achieve net zero emissions, as there are no carbon emissions such as carbon dioxide and carbon monoxide when the gas is burnt. There are a number of hydrogen-related pilot projects that ESV is involved in. These include the Hype Murray Valley proposal, which is to inject 5% and then 10% hydrogen into the Albury-Wodonga network. The HyCell project at Deakin University Warrnambool, which has a feasibility study to install some boilers operating on 100% hydrogen at the university's campus. In the UK, the first 100% hydrogen demonstration gas home has been built, the Highgrove, which includes a hydrogen cooker, boiler, and space heater. Emerging technologies such as hydrogen energy storage systems include an electrolyzer to produce hydrogen from water, metal hydride storage to store the hydrogen gas in a solid form, and a fuel cell to convert the stored hydrogen into electrical DC power. ESV, as a member of the Future Fuels Cooperative Research Centre, is playing an important role in contributing to the research and testing into hydrogen-blended natural gas and 100% hydrogen, and the impact that this will have on transmission and distribution pipelines, consumer piping, appliances, components, and the training and upskilling of gas fitters to transition the workforce in preparation for a hydrogen economy. Now, the Skills Services Organisation, Artibus Innovation, under the framework of the Australian Industry Skills Council, is facilitating the development of units of competencies for gas fitters training on hydrogen under the Construction and Plumbing Industry Reference Committee working group. This working group has been established to provide both strategic and technical input on the project and unit development. To date, the working group has identified 6 key skill requirements that address current skills and emerging gaps in this sector. These key skill requirements have been translated into a proposed unit framework, which is underpinned by 2 streams, combustion and fuel cell electrolysis. To ensure current skills needs are met, 11 new hydrogen-based competencies are being put forward, which align with traditional combustion type of work. To support emerging requirements, particularly around fuel cell and electrolysis, 8 new competencies are being proposed for development to ensure plumbing practitioners are work ready to meet future market needs. Gas fitters will note a survey being sent out to them via email asking for you to share your views on future hydrogen training in a zero carbon economy. The survey should take about 10 minutes to complete and will help design future hydrogen training that meets the needs of plumbers and gas fitters. Now, due to time restraints, you'll have all been asked to watch the video on AS/NZS 5601 Part 1 and the changes that took place or are to take place, and that was found on our registration page. Now, this video was designed to provide industry with a comprehensive overview of the most significant changes that will take place with the new version of 5601 and can be found on the ESV website and webinar registration page. We will now respond to some of the questions we've received to date on the changes to AS/NZS 5601 Part 1 and then pause to allow for additional questions to be asked from you. Now, first question to consider is, when do the new requirements in 5601 take effect, and will there be a transition period? Well, we want to clarify that 5601 Part 1 is not yet published. It is due to be published, hopefully in the next month or so. Once the standard is published, ESV are looking into allowing a 6-month transition period to allow for industry to bring themselves up to speed on the changes. ESV are also in discussion with the VBA for transition periods on standard gas installations. When do I need to install a commercial kitchen isolation valve? Well, the new edition of 5601 Part 1 requires a commercial kitchen isolation valve where there is more than one commercial catering appliance connected to the installation. This would be required for all new commercial kitchen installations. In the case of existing commercial kitchens where you've been called in to, for instance, add an appliance and a valve is not existing, you are not required to retrofit a new commercial kitchen isolation valve. If you are, however, renewing the gas fitting line to a commercial kitchen, well, then it is expected in this scenario that you would be required to install a commercial kitchen isolation valve to that kitchen. Our third question, is fire emergency isolation for multi-layer piping available for purchasing? Where are they to be installed and how are they to be set up? Well, the valves that can be used for fire emergency isolation on a gas installation include safety shutoff valves, under pressure shutoff valves, and an excess flow valves. Now, these valves are to be fitted as close as practicable to the gas supply point to the building, which is the outlet of the gas meter, and prior to any multi-layered piping. ESV are working on preparing short videos to assist gas fitters in installing and setting up fire emergency isolation for multi-layer pipe. In addition, I want to clarify that this is not required when replacing an appliance on an existing installation that does not contain fire emergency isolation. However, once again, if you're if you're working on an existing line containing multi-layer piping and you have altered it such that, for instance, you might have included a new branch, well, then in this instance, fire emergency isolation is required to be installed. Our fourth question, does the new Rangehood clearance requirements apply when replacing an existing gas cooker? The new Rangehood requirements only apply to new gas installations. Existing gas cookers being replaced do not need to meet the new requirements. However, all installations must meet the requirements of the installation instructions for the Rangehood manufacturer and the cooker manufacturer. Now, the changes made to 5601 Part 1 on Rangehood clearances were made to bring the installation standard in alignment with international standards and codes. So this alignment should actually bring greater consistency. Now, if your client is making wholesale changes to the kitchen, such as removing the cooktop to allow for new benches, overhead cupboards, splashbacks, etc., and you are asked to reinstate the appliance, well, then the new clearance requirement will come into effect. So please keep this in mind when quoting for existing jobs. Well, we'd like to thank you for viewing this presentation, and now we'd like to hand it over back to Brendan to facilitate your questions. Thank you.
Okay, so what we might do is if I can ask the panellists, and apart from yourself, Neville, you might stay live at the moment. If we can ask everyone else to please isolate your videos and your microphones. What I would like to do is introduce Neville Campbell, Senior Technical Advisor with the VBA. Neville's going to take us through some information around some changes with the AS 4575, talk about the recording portal for the gas service work, also some information about registration and licensing. So thanks very much, Neville. Over to you.
Thanks, Brendan. Good evening. My name's Neville Campbell, and I'm a Senior Technical Advisor with the VBA's Plumbing, Tech and Reg team. This evening, I'll be talking about the changes to the gas safety regulations and what this means for gas fitters. The topics we will cover are why the changes are happening, what has changed, definition of Type A appliance servicing work versus gas fitting work, who can do gas servicing work, what the new standard covers, the notable requirements of the 4575, the gas servicing work and electrical safety tests, the AS 4575 Appendix E, gas servicing record portal, gas servicing records and gas safety checks, compliance certificates and the audit process. So why the changes are happening? Since 2010, there have been 3 confirmed fatalities and several incidents of non-fatal carbon monoxide poisoning caused by open fluid gas space heaters in Victoria. Until now, there were no mandated Australian standards for the servicing of gas appliances, which meant that the quality of servicing was inconsistent. Following a coronial inquest into the 2017 death of Sonia Sofianopoulos, 8 recommendations were made, including the phase-out of open fluid gas space heaters in Victoria. Further consultation with industry stakeholders reinforced that mandating AS 4575 for gas servicing work would also improve safety outcomes for building occupants. So what has changed? To ensure that gas servicing work is carried out to a consistent standard, Australian Standard 4575 has been mandated through changes to the gas safety regulations and is now the minimum standard for carrying out servicing work on a Type A appliance in a standard gas installation. The changes introduce new terms derived from the plumbing regulations and the Building Act into the gas safety regulations and define the VBA within the context of the gas safety regulations. Changes also include a mandatory requirement for gas fitters to create a record of servicing work in a format specified by the VBA, and within 5 days of carrying out the work, the gas fitter must give a copy of the record to the person for whom the work was carried out and lodge a copy of the record with the VBA. Penalties have been introduced for failing to report gas servicing work and for providing false or misleading information in a gas servicing record. So what is gas servicing work? Type A appliance servicing work, also known as gas servicing work, is a specialised class of gas fitting work and is defined by the plumbing regulations of 2018 and more recently the gas safety installation regulations as the internal cleaning, maintenance and adjusting of a Type A appliance and includes the adjustment, repair or replacement of a component of a Type A appliance. Note that this would include work such as the replacement of a thermocouple in a hot water unit, a cooktop or a space heater. More information is available from the plumbing registration and licensing page on the VBA's website. Gas servicing work versus gas fitting work. What's the difference? Excuse me. Gas fitting work is also defined by the plumbing regulations, but is not considered a specialised class. And while the definitions are similar, the definition of gas fitting work also specifies that gas fitting work does not include specialised gas fitting work. Therefore, where work could fit within the definition of servicing or repairing an installed appliance, it would be considered gas servicing work. And where the work is incidental to the installation of an appliance, it would be considered gas fitting work. Who can do gas servicing work? Gas fitters performing gas servicing work must hold either a licence or registration in the specialised class of Type A appliance servicing work. Plumbers who are registered or provisionally registered must not do any Type A appliance servicing work unless the work is carried out under the supervision of a person who is licensed to carry out work of that class. An apprentice can perform any class of plumbing work under the supervision of a person who is licensed in that type of plumbing work without being licensed or registered by the authority themselves. It is a requirement of the Building Act that a person is licensed to carry out specialised plumbing work. The penalty for failing to observe this requirement is 500 penalty units. To the AS 4575, what this standard covers. This standard specifies the minimum requirements for Type A appliance servicing, repair and conversion from one gas type to another, testing for safe and correct operation, and related aspects of gas installations. For the purpose of this work, where the term installation is used, it is deemed to include the pipework, appliances, components, flues, air ducts, ventilation, and other ancillary items. Some notable requirements of this standard are preliminary checks for electrical safety, detailed appliance inspection prior to commencing any servicing, repair, testing or conversion work. Tools and equipment and materials must be appropriate for the tasks being performed. This includes things such as CO detection equipment and electrical safety testing equipment. Equipment that requires calibration must be calibrated against a traceable reference source. Documentation, such as a calibration certificate, should be maintained to demonstrate the calibration status of the equipment. There's a mandatory requirement to test for spillage of combustion products after servicing, repairs or conversion of an appliance. In the case of an internal open fluid appliance, the test must be carried out in accordance with Appendix F. The standard also contains both normative and informative appendices, which provide guidance on electrical safety testing during Type A appliance servicing, guidance for appliance servicing, and smoke and spillage testing. Gas servicing work and electrical safety tests. One of the key components of the AS 4575 is the requirement for electrical safety testing, for which the standard provides some guidance. While most of this information is informative only and does not fall within the scope of plumbing work, an earth continuity test is a normative requirement. It is not recommended that gas fitters undertake electrical testing themselves unless they are competent in performing these basic tasks. Gas fitters who are performing gas safety checks should be aware that it is a requirement of the residential tenancies regulations for an appliance to be electrically safe. Appendix E provides a gas appliance servicing checklist. This appendix is listed in the standard as informative, but has been specifically mandated through changes to the gas safety installation regulations. The changes in the regulations require the gas fitter to submit a copy of the checklist to the VBA as part of the gas servicing record. One of the requirements in the checklist requires gas fitters to confirm that the appliance is installed in accordance with AS NZS 5601. Gas fitters performing gas servicing work should be aware that the applicable standard for an installation is the standard that was adopted at the time of the installation, and that the requirements of the current standard do not apply retrospectively. In Victoria, The AS NZS 5601-2013 was adopted on the 31st of March 2014. Among other things, this standard introduced significant changes to the way that gas appliance ventilation is calculated in buildings that have been built or altered since that date. So gas fitters will need to confirm which standard applies to the installation when assessing it for compliance with 5601. Gas Servicing Record Portal. To assist practitioners to meet their new reporting requirements, the VBA have developed a portal that can be accessed from a computer, tablet or smartphone. This means that the mandatory report information can be entered from site in real time. The portal also provides for a copy to be automatically sent to yourself and the person for whom the work was done by entering the respective email addresses. The portal form consists of 7 fields and some subfields. However, this can vary depending on the number of appliances that you're entering. One mandatory component of the form is the requirement to provide a complete copy of the AS 4575 Appendix E checklist. This can be completed through the portal or emailed to the VBA through the dedicated email address that's available from the portal. The checklist can be in your own format, but must contain all of the Appendix E information at a minimum. Just for clarity, that's the email address there where you can send the Appendix E information. The Gas Servicing Record Portal can be accessed through the VBA's website and allows text to be copied and pasted directly into the fields. This means that gas fitters can pre-populate some areas of the form ahead of the on-site work, then save and complete the form later. You must enter a licence or registration number at a minimum to be able to save the form. Saving the form will generate a reference number that will appear just under the heading on the page. You will need to save or write this number down exactly as it appears, as the system will not recognise a shortened reference number. To access the form later, you must have both the full reference number and the licence or registration number that created it. Without both numbers, the form cannot be retrieved. So just for absolute clarity, when you save this form, when you entered a licence or registration number and save the form, it will generate this number up here. Now, that number must be used exactly as it appears. So you need the letters, you need the space, you need the zeros and the final number. If you don't have it in the format that it appears, you won't be able to find the form. Negative pressure and carbon monoxide. Excuse me. When completing a gas servicing record, if during servicing you have identified negative pressure in the living space where the type A gas appliance is installed, you must include this finding in the Appendix E information you provide to the VBA via the portal or by email. You must also provide the customer with a copy of the ESV VBA co-branded negative pressure letter. If you happen to detect carbon monoxide spillage during servicing work, you must record this finding in the Appendix E information you provide to the VBA. You are also required to make the installation safe by fixing or isolating the appliance. If you're unable to do so, you must immediately notify ESV on 1800-652-563, option 5. Further information is available from the ESV website. Now, that is a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week hotline. The Gas Servicing Record Portal upgrades. The VBA have taken on board the feedback that has been received since the portal's release and continue to work on streamlining the process to reduce the admin burden. Several items have been marked for change and will be implemented in the near future. So far, changes have included reducing the number of mandatory fields to a minimum so that the form can still be lodged even if specific data is unavailable. Note that this doesn't change the obligation to report the information. It just stops the system from blocking lodgement for incomplete information. Now, as I understand it, there is work still happening on attempting to reduce that further. There's some duplicated fields have been removed and some others have been consolidated. The portal also provides the option for users to lodge Appendix E via the portal or even where CO spillage or negative pressure has been identified. However, Appendix E providing Appendix E by email does not change the mandatory requirement to complete the other sections of the portal form, or to notify the VBA of negative pressure, or to notify ESV of CO spillage if it cannot be rectified. Gas servicing records and gas safety checks. What's the difference? The Residential Tenancies Regulations of 2021 came into force on the 29th of March 2021. These regulations are administered by Consumer Affairs Victoria and mandate 2 yearly gas safety checks and servicing of gas appliances for rented premises. The Residential Tenancies Regulations do not form part of the regulatory framework for gas fitting. As this is the case, the gas safety check is a separate requirement to the gas servicing record required by the VBA. However, where gas servicing is carried out on a Type A appliance in a standard gas installation, the actual work falls within the VBA's jurisdiction of regulated plumbing work. From the 1st of June 2022, changes to the gas safety installation regulations came into effect. This means that gas servicing work must be performed in accordance with AS 4575. The person performing the work must hold appropriate qualifications as set out in the plumbing regulations, and a record of the work must be submitted to the VBA within 5 days of completion. Do I need to fill out both? As a gas safety check is prescribed under the Residential Tenancies Regulations, it is not a requirement of the plumbing regulatory framework. However, where a gas fitter is engaged by a rental provider or landlord to carry out a gas safety check in a rental property, the gas servicing record must be completed, but will only satisfy the gas servicing component of the gas safety check and will not satisfy all of the gas safety check requirements. Additional requirements of the gas safety check will also need to be completed. The gas servicing record must be lodged with the VBA via the portal, and a copy of this record included in the documentation for the gas safety check. Where a gas fitter is carrying out servicing work in an owner-occupied premises, they are not required to complete a gas safety check. However, they are required to lodge a gas servicing record with the VBA and provide a copy to the customer. The gas servicing record must also be lodged for repairs to Type A appliances. When is a compliance certificate required for gas servicing work? When conducting gas servicing work, compliance certificates are required for the following. The total cost is $750 or more, including GST. Compliance certificates required if for the installation, relocation, or replacement of a gas-using appliance. The modification of consumer gas piping, including the replacement of a flexible connection or isolating valve. The disconnection and removal of an appliance from its fixed position, even temporarily. Just a reminder there that if an appliance is pulled out from its fixed position and put back in, it's effectively being reinstalled and must be fully commissioned. The temporary disconnection of an appliance that is not removed from its fixed position does not require a compliance certificate. An example of this might be working on a freestanding cooker where there's no isolation valve connecting the cooker. So you may require parts for the cooker which you need to source, but you need to restore gas to the rest of the house. So you might just cap it at that point, restore gas to the rest of the house and leave the appliance in its fixed position but isolated. Penalties apply for failing to issue compliance certificates where required by the Building Act. The penalty is 60 penalty units. Gas servicing records in the audit process. A common question we get asked is, will I get audited on a gas servicing record? Gas servicing records will form a normal part of the risk-based audit and inspection regime. Thanks for your time this evening. Please feel free to ask your questions in the Q&A session at the end of this webinar. Back to you. Thanks, Brendan.
So again, what I would like to do is thank everybody for their time tonight. I'd also like to thank the VBA and ESV for the support over the last 6 weeks in getting these programs out to people. I would again like to ask everyone, if you haven't availed yourself to both the ESV and the VBA websites. There is a lot of information there on both of those websites around technical information sheets, videos and animations around Type A appliance servicing, whether that be the negative pressure tests or the carbon monoxide spillage tests. There's a lot of the frequently asked and answered questions that we've seen, not only from this year, but previous years that might be of assistance to you. We do understand again that the VBA are working on some changes in relation to the issues that we've had and people have had in industry around the servicing portal and uploading information. So again, appreciate that the work is being done in the background to try to make that burden a little bit less on those that are doing that gas fitting service work. So if there is anything that you would like to offer in relation to feedback, we will be sending some information out to everybody over the coming days. Please do provide that feedback. The Master Plumbers, the VBA and ESV are always going to be working together to try to make sure that the community is as safe as it can possibly be when we're looking at gas appliances. So what I would like to do again is to say thank you to everyone for your time tonight and have a good night. Thanks very much.